Way back in the tail months of 1997, the Avengers re-entered the main Marvel universe from their pocket dimension reboot known as Heroes Reborn. Once again, Marvel would have their mainline Avengers back, ready to intermingle with the rest of the universe like Spider-Man and the X-Men. So, it shouldn't come as a surprise that less than a year later, Marvel released a crossover for the returning Avengers called Live, Kree, or Die. Now, you may think that this would be some kind of massive commemorative crossover like War of the Realms or Civil War, with the main crossover miniseries and tie-ins running for months in every book imaginable, but that is not the case. Live, Kree, or Die consists of 4 issues, each spread across a different Avengers or Avengers-adjacent book. Instead of being grand or showy, Live, Kree, or Die tells a deeply personal story that nonetheless has dummy high stakes and major ramifications for the Marvel Universe. The first issue is number 7 of Iron Man Volume 3, written by Kurt Busiek and Richard Howell with art from Sean Chern, which sees Iron Man go to see fellow Avenger Carol Danvers, who's going by Warbird at this time for reasons, about her drinking problem and refusal to discuss her waning power level, as shown at length in previous issues of the main Avengers book. We even get a recap of Carol's long history here, just so everything makes sense for new readers. Carol, though, just winds up getting pissed and basically shouts Iron Man off, so he decides to keep busy and go investigate a power plant that is the source of a villain from his previous issue. Carol shows back up, as do a bunch of angry Kree aliens that want to use the power plant's generator for something. They steal the generator and blow up the building, leaving Iron Man to protect the people inside while Carol recklessly flies after the Kree. Carol manages to get herself caught as soon as the next issue starts, in writer Mark Waid and artist Andy Kuber's issue 8 of Captain America Volume 3, so you can guess who's going to star in this issue. Carol calls Captain America in to help handle the Kree, who have been experimenting on human prisoners. Cap saves the prisoners while Carol fights the Kree by herself and gets caught again, so the Kree take her to the moon. The next issue, Quicksilver issue 10 by writers John Ostrander and Joe Edkin and artist Derek Acquoin, sees former Avenger Quicksilver and his teleporting dog Lockjaw arrive at Avengers Mansion to meet with Avengers Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch in order to help save Carol from the Kree. Lockjaw teleports everyone to the moon, where Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch fight the Kree while Quicksilver rescues Carol. He also runs into the reborn Kree leader, the Supreme Intelligence, who the Avengers seemingly killed 6 real-world years earlier during a storyline known as Galactic Storm. The Supreme Intelligence reveals that the Kree are planning to use a laser to turn every human on Earth into a Kree in their name, except for the superhumans, who will just die. Remember those dummy high stakes I mentioned? Oddly enough, though, the Supreme Intelligence doesn't seem too happy about it. Carol then messes up again and almost blows everyone out of the moon base and into space, so Quicksilver teleports everyone back to Avengers Mansion. The final issue of the crossover is issue 7 of Avengers Volume 3 by writer Kurt Busiek and artist George Perez, which starts with the full Avengers roster putting Carol on trial to determine if she is still fit to be an Avenger. Their discussion conveniently recaps the previous 3 issues, which means that people just reading issues of the Avengers won't be confused. Neat. The Avengers do decide to kick Carol off the team until she can get her act together, which she is not happy about. The Avengers replace her with their backup, Justice and Firestar, and then the whole team goes back to the moon to stop the Kree. They manage to succeed thanks to a combination of Justice and Firestar's powers and the Supreme Intelligence just straight up telling the Avengers what to do. The Supreme Intelligence has plans, but turning humans into Kree isn't one of them. It doesn't stop the Avengers from monitoring him 24/7 though. Carol, for her part, tried really hard to fly to the moon like she used to be able to, but just can't. She goes to get a drink to ease her sorrows that the Avengers don't need her, but ends up not actually drinking it, providing hope for the future. Unlike most crossovers, this one doesn't really end, or at least doesn't wrap up all of its plot threads, most notably Carol's. It really feels like an Avengers storyline, just spread across some other series with references to their ongoing plots. Carol's arc will be picked up in later Avengers stories, as will the Supreme Intelligence's. Speaking of the Supreme Intelligence, their return has those major ramifications I mentioned earlier. Despite technically returning earlier in 1998, that was in a miniseries called Imperial Guard that I can't even find on Marvel's official website. Essentially, this makes this little crossover the Supreme Intelligence's return, and the series acts like it too, explaining how they survived their death. Overall, despite being a small-scale Avengers-only crossover, Live, Kree, or Die manages to do everything it sets out to do. Carol's breakdowns, while kind of overly dramatic, reinforce the poor mental state she's in after the loss of her powers, and the story genuinely treats her alcoholism like a tragedy, especially in the Avengers issue. The mystery of what the Kree want is solid, especially as all the pieces fall together, and the final fight is appropriately dramatic. Even better, from a modern crossover perspective, only Avengers is really affected long-term by the crossover, whereas the other series just keep doing their own thing, so you don't really have to read the crossover if you're just interested in following Captain America, let's say. Of course, reading the other issues builds on this particular story, but you don't have to get dragged away from your cat political thriller to watch him fight the X-Men over a cosmic fire god. So while it may be forgotten nowadays, but it isn't because Live Free or Die is bad. It's simply because it's a low-key and flows perfectly into the ongoing Avengers series, and that feels like a lesson that a lot of modern crossovers could learn.